The harsh blue light of your smartphone illuminates the conference table. Ping. A Slack notification from your manager. Ping. An email marked urgent, CCing the entire department. You're sitting in a room surrounded by colleagues, yet your nervous system is being completely hijacked by a digital intrusion. Everyone else stares at the projector, feigning interest in the Q3 deliverables. Meanwhile, you feel that familiar, suffocating spike of cortisol. The corporate machine weaponizes notifications to manufacture panic, disguising someone else's poor time management as your immediate emergency. Then you notice the executive at the head of the table. His phone is face down, his laptop is closed. The digital chaos bounces off him. He is physically present but psychologically untouchable. This is not arrogance. It is a calculated defense mechanism. The ultimate leverage in a modern business isn't hyper-responsiveness. It is the tactical ability to remain completely alone. You cannot silence the company's Slack channel. You cannot rewrite the micromanagement protocols ingrained in your department's culture, but you can absolutely control their access to your cognitive bandwidth. Your attention is your highest yielding asset. Right now, you're bleeding it out to every manufactured crisis and reply all email thread. This deficit ends today. We are not here to meditate or discuss abstract philosophy. We are here to install a mental firewall. We are taking the core algorithm of Stoic strategy, the dichotomy of control, and weaponizing it for the modern office. This is about ruthlessly severing the external noise you cannot dictate and fiercely guarding the internal operations you can. Archive this briefing, review it before your next all-hands meeting. Welcome to the Citadel protocol. Today, we deploy the tactical maneuvers required to build an impenetrable psychological fortress. They may sign your paycheck, but they will no longer own your peace of mind. Let's initiate the system override. We are now entering the execution phase. The boardroom is your arena, but you will no longer play by their rules. Here are the defense mechanisms to isolate yourself from the collective anxiety of the corporate ecosystem. The illusion of immediacy. The manufactured urgency. You know the exact scenario. It is a Tuesday morning alignment meeting. A project manager bursts into the agenda, treating a minor formatting error on a quarterly deck as a catastrophic operational failure. They thrive on adrenaline. They expect you to match their heightened state of panic. Their anxiety is a virus, and they are using the meeting room as a petri dish to infect your bandwidth. Seneca noted, there are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Execute the strategic pause. Do not match their tempo. Do not lean forward in your chair. When they ask an urgent, breathless question about the bottleneck, wait 3 full seconds before opening your mouth. Lower the pitch of your voice. State only the operational facts. The timeline is secure. The revision will be deployed by EOD. Nothing more. Panic is the cheapest currency in the corporate matrix. People manufacture crises to feel important, disguising poor time management as high-stakes dedication. By refusing to mirror their urgency, you break the transmission chain. Your silence and lowered tempo act as a psychological vacuum. It forces the panic spreader to hear the absurdity of their own escalation echoing in the cold room. You remain completely alone in your rational bubble. Their artificial crisis collapses under its own weight while you conserve your cognitive energy for actual, deep work. The echo chamber of egos? The performative contributor. This is the colleague who speaks in endless circles to demonstrate their value to upper management without actually delivering ROI. They weaponize buzzwords, synergize, leverage, agile paradigms to mask a profound lack of substance. They are the reason a 15-minute sync mutates into an hour-long hostage situation. Epictetus warned, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Adopt the information asymmetry stance. While they talk, to fill the void, physically disengage from the performance. Look at the data sheet, not at them. Map the power dynamics of the room. When you do speak, do so exclusively at the end of the meeting. Summarize the actionable next steps in 1 brutal, concise sentence. B the period at the end of the rambling paragraph. In the corporate environment, words suffer from extreme hyperinflation. The more verbal output a person produces, the less their words are worth. By hoarding your verbal contributions, you create a market scarcity for your voice. When you finally speak, the room is forced to listen because your words are tied exclusively to execution, not ego stroking. You position yourself as a silent architect, watching the bricklayers argue. You do not compete for airtime. You own the outcome. The political minefield, the consensus trap. You are in a cross-departmental review. A colleague throws a passive-aggressive remark disguised as a collaborative question. They ask, I just want to make sure your team has the capacity to handle this KPI since last quarter's deliverables were delayed. It is bait. It is an invitation to defend yourself, to bleed energy into office politics, and to look insecure in front of the director. Marcus Aurelius wrote, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. Execute the non-defensive acknowledgement. Do not justify. Do not explain your past metrics. Do not counterattack their department. Maintain a flat, unreadable expression. Look directly at their forehead, not their eyes. Say, capacity is accounted for. We are executing the brief. Then, seamlessly redirect the agenda back to the moderator. Passive aggression is a psychological phishing scam. It requires a target to react and click the bait by offering a cold, emotionless confirmation. Without a hint of defense, you deny them the friction they need to operate. You leave them holding a lit match with nothing to burn. Silence in the face of provocation is a void that sucks the power out of the aggressor. When you do not provide the defensive reaction they anticipated, they look petty and unprofessional to the rest of the room. Your isolation from their emotional game establishes a dominance that cannot be argued with. The illusion of control, the micromanagement interrogation, a manager who uses anxiety as a leadership tool. During the status update, they demand granular, microscopic details to enforce their authority. They want to know every CC on every email. Their goal is to make you feel perpetually unstable, so you remain dependent on their validation. Epictetus stated, if a person gave your body to any stranger he met on his way, you would certainly be angry. And do you feel no shame in handing over your own mind to be confused and mystified by anyone who happens to verbally attack you? Deploy the data-driven firewall. When they attempt to drill down into unnecessary micro details to trigger your insecurity, strip all emotion from your response. Answer exclusively with cold, hard metrics. Do not say, I think, or I feel. Say, the dashboard indicates. If they push for an emotional response regarding a delayed deliverable, state the revised timeline and the exact mitigation strategy. Offer no apologies, only data. Micromanagers are corporate vampires. They feed on the emotional compliance and fear of their subordinates. When you replace emotional reactions with rigid data points, you fundamentally change the programming language of the interaction. You turn a toxic power play into a sterile Excel spreadsheet. You become an unreadable, impenetrable system, rendering their emotional manipulation tactics utterly obsolete. You are in the room with them, but psychologically, you are operating on a completely different frequency. They cannot manipulate a machine. The intellectual hijacking, the blue sky, brainstorming session, a meeting designed under the guise of open collaboration, but functioning as a harvesting ground. This is where middle managers gather your raw ideas, repackage them in a sleek PowerPoint, and present them to the C-suite as their own strategic vision. You do the heavy lifting, they collect the bonus. Seneca argued, we are tight-fisted with property and money, yet think too little of wasting time, the one thing about which we should all be the toughest misers, the strategic withholding and timestamp. Ideas are currency. Stop throwing them onto the middle of the table for free. During the meeting, offer conceptual frameworks, but withhold the execution mechanics. If you have a high-value strategy, document it in an email to yourself or a trusted subordinate before the meeting. When you present it, say, I've outlined the specific mechanics in a brief I will circulate after this call. By separating the what from the how, you retain the leverage. The idea thief is lazy. They want the complete package without doing the work. When you force them to rely on your documented follow-up to understand the execution, you create an undeniable paper trail of ownership. You transition from an exploitable resource to a proprietary asset. You sit in the meeting, participating just enough to be a team player, but securely isolated in the knowledge that your intellectual property remains locked inside your own citadel. The contagion of complaint, the post-meeting autopsy, the Zoom call ends or you walk out of the boardroom. But the real drain begins. Colleagues linger in the hallway or immediately create a breakaway Slack huddle to complain about management's decisions. They invite you to participate in the collective outrage. They want you to bond over shared misery and vent about the new Q4 targets. Marcus Aurelius advised, how much time he gains, who does not look to see what his neighbor says, or does, or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy. The immediate disconnect protocol. As soon as the meeting adjourns, physically or digitally remove yourself from the transition space. Close the laptop, walk directly back to your station. Do not linger near the door. If cornered in a chat, utilize a polite but rigid exit protocol. Understood. I have a hard stop right now to finalize these deliverables. Bonding over shared corporate misery is a false brotherhood. It bonds you to negativity and drains the exact cognitive energy required for you to actually escape the rat race. Complaining changes nothing. It only reinforces a victim mindset. By isolating yourself from the gossip sinkhole, you protect your momentum. You separate yourself from the herd that finds comfort in whining, aligning yourself instead with the top tier of professionals who find comfort only in execution. You leave them to their noise and return to your silence. The system is explicitly engineered to blur the boundary between who you are and what you produce. It wants you to believe that your annual performance review is a measure of your intrinsic worth. It is not. A missed KPI is not a moral failure. A delayed deliverable is merely a fluctuating data point on a server, not a reflection of your character. You must actively decouple your identity from your corporate output. Hustle culture is a psychological scam designed to make you bleed for a company brand that will never bleed for you. If your nervous system collapses tomorrow due to burnout, human resources will have your job requisition posted before the end of the quarter. Treat your employment contract for exactly what it is, a sterile transactional exchange of your specialized skills for their capital. You are not a family. You are an operator executing a function within a massive, indifferent machine. When you shut your laptop, leave the operator at the desk. The most formidable professionals can be completely detached in a high-stakes meeting because they understand the boardroom is just a simulation. Your job is how you fund your existence. It is not the reason you exist. Terminate the emotional investment. Tomorrow morning, when you step into the weekly sync or log into the daily stand-up, do not merely participate. Observe, execute just one of these isolation protocols. Watch how the manufactured anxiety of the room fails to penetrate your perimeter. Notice how your deliberate silence becomes the heaviest anchor in the meeting. They will continue to burn out in the endless loop of office politics while you operate with cold, unobstructed precision. You are no longer a reactive variable in their chaotic algorithm. You are now operating from within the Citadel protocol. The corporate framework relies entirely on your emotional compliance to function. When you systematically withdraw that compliance, you reclaim your leverage. We do not beg for validation here, but if you have successfully installed this mental firewall and refuse to be drained by the hustle culture agenda, verify your operational status. Leave a record in the system logs below by typing Stoic Professional. It serves as a silent receipt that you are part of this network. Conserve your cognitive bandwidth. Defend your internal assets at all costs. The machine will keep running tomorrow, but it will no longer run on your peace of mind. System logging out.